heard this from one of my directors, and my dad says it a lot of times, but what comes from the heart goes to the heart, you know, and what I share in most of my music, it means something to me. And so I hope that my testimony and how I feel about who I'm singing about, comes forth and people can feel that, so.
Welcome. We are here at Beyond the Game, and I have a gentleman that I highly regard, Mr. Yahosh Bonner. Consider him as a great friend and a man who's a mentor to my son and has become a wonderful friend to our family, Mr. Yahosh Bonner. Yahosh, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me. This is awesome. It's good to be with you.
I love having you here. I mean, if anyone, because our audience isn't just Utah, it's kind of all over. So sometimes they're unaware of that famous Bonner family.
The Bonner family.
Can you tell us about the Bonner family?
I like those guys. I like
Okay. So you and your brothers, all sisters, brothers and sisters, all got along all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. We were the best of friends and the worst of enemies, actually.
Okay.
It's interesting, you know, being a member of the singing group is fun, but one of the reasons why we all do it is so that we can be together.
And that's how we know of the Bonner family, because the Bonner family has a reputation, especially in Utah, but now more, maybe even worldwide, as being a wonderful family that sings together in some pretty cool venues.
Yeah.
Tell us, how did that start?
So we're all very different. And like I said, we're best friends, but we get at each other. Like, and growing up, like,
typical
it was a war zone. Like, if you're from a family that has 8 kids and you're alive and everybody's well, you are blessed.
Congratulations.
You made it. Congratulations. No, but we grew up, we moved around a lot growing up. Most of us were born in Las Vegas. My oldest sister was born in Liberia, West Africa, where my parents served a mission for the Baptist Church before they converted to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so that's where my eldest sister was born, no long.
Okay, time out.
Yeah.
All right, so no, I'll let you keep going, but we got to come back to the Baptist mission in Liberia.
Yeah, Liberia. West Africa.
All right, so your sister.
So her and then my other sister, Younga, who's the next one, younger sister, Younga. She was born in Cincinnati. Then everybody else was born in Las Vegas. But we moved around a lot, and because of that, my parents, they're like, I don't know, they pray on everything, and they just, wherever the Spirit directs them to move. And they were very intentional about raising us and giving us opportunities to grow at certain points.
Where did your parents meet?
My parents met at the University of Michigan.
Oh.
Yeah, the University of Michigan.
So are you a Michigan fan?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay.
I'm a BYU fan, you know. I hope Michigan does well, sure, but
until they play BYU.
Absolutely,
okay.
absolutely. But anyway, we because we moved around a lot, our relationships were never too solidified outside of the family, but we always had each other, you know. And with 8 kids, you know, your parents raise you, but you kind of raise each other as well. So me and my older brother, we played a lot of basketball. Did a lot of boxing without gloves, a lot of wrestling without referees, you know, but those are my people, you know. So having the opportunity to share what is most important to us is the gospel of Jesus Christ, our love for the Savior, and to do it through music, which is a gift that my mom has nurtured within each one of us. She's a voice teacher. She's phenomenal, but she's taught us all how to teach and all how to sing, even though when we were growing up, I never had any solos, and she would say, all my children sing, and Yahosh, he's our athlete.
Well, I read that a passion of yours, or one of the passions, was basketball.
Basketball's
but I've heard you sing, brother, and you have a good voice.
Oh, thank you.
No, so come on. Did your mom end up, or did you just stick to it? How did you go from being the athlete in the family and everyone else is the singer to now you're part of the Bonner family. You sing,
Yes.
and I've seen you
And
sing
I have solos sometimes.
I
you
have
know?
seen that. In fact, you can see it on the internet.
Yeah.
You have some wonderful music.
Thank you. My mom knows and knew that I loved music, and so she still included me in all the voice classes and in her gospel choirs and everything. But we were always asked to sing on a dime. Like if people would come over and have dinner with us, at the end, you're gonna get a song from the Bonners, or you're gonna hear different solos. But I was never picked, and they're like, "Well, what about this one?" Well, this is Yahosh. He's our athlete. Because I love music.
Were you a point guard or?
Yeah, I was a point guard when I was in high school and in college.
Okay.
Shout out to the University of Northern Colorado. Go Bears. And Coach Tad Boyle, who's now at Colorado University, he was my head coach.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Very good.
But music has been an important part of our lives, not just because of my mom, but my dad, his aunt actually was like a trailblazer of gospel music in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Wow.
And they had a singing group called the Bonner Singers. Yeah, and it was made up of her and her siblings. And so we are just, trying to be our ancestors' wildest dreams and pushing forth our love of music and of the Lord. Yeah.
Yahosh, that is cool. I was just thinking my daughter lived in Cincinnati when her husband was in residency in medical school. They lived outside of Cleveland for a while, and they lived outside of Cincinnati. I think Cleveland is where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is.
Oh, okay.
I think. But it seems like Cincinnati had a lot of music too.
Yeah.
So you had the Bonner Singers.
The Bonner Singers, yeah.
In Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And your family had not yet joined the church at that time, or had?
No, they had the two people who were the first members were my mom and my dad.
Okay.
And that was after they had served a mission for the Baptist Church in
Liberia,
West Africa, which they love. They love the people, and they almost were going to stay there, But again, the Spirit calls, they pray, hey, where should we go? And they go. They're like those spiritual gypsies or hippies,
Well, let me ask you a question, because when we didn't have 8 kids, but our children, we had 6.
Yeah. Wow.
6 children. Diana is one of 9, so wow. She can connect with you on the size of family. Exactly. But I remember, for example, when we would get all of our kids together for a picture, I periodically was one of the guys rolling my eyes like, oh no, here we go again. And therefore, I think some of my kids gravitated to that attitude of, oh, not again. Did you ever, when you had these family get-togethers or people were visiting with you and you had to sing, did you ever rebel?
No.
No.
Didn't do that.
You felt good at home. Mom and Dad.
I didn't do that. And there's a reason why, but
and his name is Dad.
His name is Dad. Absolutely. Yeah. Mom asked you to do something, you do it.
Okay.
You do it.
Without complaint, without.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
That was then. Now it might be a little different, but, and I would always hope, like, ask me to sing. Cause I love to sing.
You love to sing.
I've always loved it. But it's funny that you say the things with the pictures, because I'll have to send you some pictures and you can look at the family pictures and say, oh, they were happy to be there. They were good. Oh, this one, something happened before this. That's what happened before. Something happened with this one before the picture was taken. It was usually with my sisters. I'm not gonna say any names.
No, you never would.
Younger.
You're not going to.
No longer younger.
No. Yahosh, when we met you, our son Luke was going to play basketball and attend American Heritage, and you were the athletic director. Mm-hmm. We were so impressed with your gregarious way and how inviting you were to everybody.
Oh well, especially 6'6". We 6'7".
He claims he's only 6'6", but I know he's taller than that.
No, well, his reach too, man.
Yeah, and
that hook shot, unstoppable.
Are you familiar with the BYU basketball team?
Yeah.
All right, so you know Foose.
Yes.
And that dude isn't the tallest center on the court, but he has a reach.
He gets it done.
He gets his
high shoulders and that. Long,
and long. So, and Luke has a little bit of that, he's not Foose.
No.
Oh man, Foose is amazing. So you were a point guard at Northern Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, how did you mix? My wife Diana calls you a Renaissance man.
Oh wow, she's so sweet.
Well, no, because I've seen your music, it was called Ocean or Oceans.
I did a cover, yeah.
And that music was so cool and just uplifting. It was good.
Yeah. I always say, I mean, and I heard this from one of my directors, and my dad says it a lot of times, but what comes from the heart goes to the heart, and what I share in most of my music, it means something to me. And so I hope that my testimony and how I feel about who I'm singing about, comes forth, and people can feel that.
I love that. All right, so Renaissance man, point guard in Northern Colorado, and wonderful singer, in the Bonner family and as a single. I mean, how are you an artist? Or maybe being a point guard is a little more of an artist too.
Well, absolutely. Shout out to the point guards out there. But when I was playing in high school and playing in college, like I had been taught by my mom, and I had sang, but I was not singing publicly. I wasn't singing in front of anybody.
Why? Because of fear, or
because of fear, and opportunity. Nowadays, you can do more, and it's okay.
Sure.
But I felt like when I was playing was like, you're singing? Like, what are you doing? That's weird, because I remember when I joined an AAU team, and I was always singing around my teammates, and my teammates were great, but these guys I didn't know very much, and they were like, "Shut up!
What are you doing?
Why are you singing again? Like, please stop!" And they were so mean.
Where was this?
When I was in Arizona. All
right.
But anyway, with music, I thought it was amazing. Nobody can tell me anything. I'm an athlete. Yeah, I'm a singer. I felt it in my soul.
That's a great combo.
Was amazing. Yeah. And well, I tried out for the junior high talent show in 7th grade, and the year before that, my brother had won, and I was like, well, now it's my turn, And so I tried out, and a lot of the people that were judging were my friends. I knew them. And the next day, I went to look for my name, and I wasn't chosen. My name was not on the list to be in the talent show. And I was like, what? Like, okay. Like, so my confidence took a blow. Also, that same year, I tried out for the basketball team. And same thing, looking for my name, cut. And
Wow.
I'm just like, these are two things that the Lord has put a passion on my heart to do and that I love. And
now
I felt
someone's getting in the way.
Yeah. That was tough. But I remember my mom telling me a story of how she came to know Jesus and how she came to sing. She was, I think she was in elementary school, and she used to fight a lot. And when I say fight, it's like the wrestling where you get somebody, you pin them down, and like, oh, you won, who wins, She said she used to wear shorts underneath her dress when she'd go to school so she could fight better.
So she could get in the, oh, that's awesome.
So she had a friend that was new, and people were making fun of her hair. She's from, I think, the South, Mississippi or something. Anyway, they're in Flint, Michigan. My mom grew up in Flint, Michigan. Born in Louisiana, grew up in Flint, Michigan. And the kids were making fun of her hair and how dark her skin was. And my mom was like, okay, let's fight these kids. And they're gonna stop. And the girl said, no, I can't. My best friend wouldn't like it. And my mom was like, your best friend? Like, I'm the only friend you got. Like, what are you talking about, best friend? And she's like, no, my best friend. She's like, I'll take you to meet him. We'll go to his house. And so on Sunday, she took my mom to church.
Oh, my.
And the girl was in the choir, and she had a solo. And my mom heard this girl's voice, and she said, that's when she said her first prayer. She said, Lord, if you give me a voice like that, I will use it to serve you forever.
Really?
Yeah. And so I remember that. And so I got home after the basketball tryouts. I got home after the talent show, and I said, Lord, if you give me this gift, I will use it to serve you. I didn't know how that was going to work. How can you serve him with basketball and being a good singer? I didn't know at that point, but I just knew my mom said that prayer and it worked for her, and I said that prayer, and I feel like it's worked for me. So,
Yahosh, what a good story.
Yeah, I'm grateful for my mom and for her transparency of being a bully of the bullies and fighting people. And
well, but think about it. A bully of the bully. I like that. That's worth some. But your mom and her friend, and her friend referring, I assume, to Jesus Christ.
Yes.
As her friend.
If you didn't catch that, that's her best friend was Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. No, how cool is that? How cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that. Yahosh Bonner, part of the Bonner family, point guard, singer, and philosopher.
Yeah. not even close. But my singing didn't kick in till, because I still love to sing, but I was reluctant to share it and to sing it in front of people, and so I really focused on basketball, and I got better, and I still sang because I was a part of my family. We'd sing at night. We'd sing on family. We'd sing in church. We were always singing. And then at night, me and my brothers would lay down at night, and we say, okay, let's have a singing contest. And so I would sing, and they would sing, and then we say on the count of 3, 1 through 10, 1, 2, 3, 7.5, 1, 2, 3, 8. Oh, 8? No, that was definitely a 9. So it was always a part of what we did. I just didn't share it publicly. And I remember my coach found out that I could sing a little bit, Coach Boyle, and he said, "Okay, Yahosh, you're singing the national anthem tonight." I'm just like, "Please, no."
Wow.
Coach, please.
And you were on the team, right?
Yes, I was on the team.
My.
So I'm like nervous and like shaking.
And the national anthem's not an easy song.
Oh, no,
I mean, the range there is
well,
crazy.
everybody knows the words, so you better get them right. And you better not start too high.
And we were a little bit
start
nervous.
Too low.
Oh, my. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, but I did that. We won. He's like, "We got to do it again." Oh, so I did it like 3 games in a row. And then we lost, and I was like, yes.
Okay. Yeah, now I'm off the hook.
I'm off the hook. But yeah, so I was also in a praise group at Northern Colorado, and that was fun. And so I did some singing there, but my really jumping into the music industry didn't start until after I got finished playing college ball. After I got finished coaching, because I coached college basketball, coached 3 years of community college at Western Nebraska, did 1 year at Southern Utah, and then got a head coaching job at ALA in Spanish Fork, Utah. And then I realized, wow, when you don't do college sports, you actually there's time. You can do other things.
That's right.
And so I joined my mom's gospel choir and just figured it out like, wow, this is pretty good. I enjoy this, and people like my voice. That's why I started to really believe like, oh, I guess I do have something here.
You do. You do. In fact, what the name I think was Ocean or Oceans, the cover, and then the song I saw you sing with another young, I'll call you guys young men because you are.
We'll take it.
Was beautiful. It was beautiful. I recommend it to anybody. Look for Yahosh Bonner and Oceans, and they have some music there that is really uplifting and good for all of us.
I appreciate that.
And then another thing that we were so proud of, because we already knew you, but then a series that we in our family love is The Chosen.
Yes.
And then when they have their Christmas specials and other get-togethers, which are always very interesting, and some of the most talented and uniquely interesting different groups that come and sing. Yeah. The Bonner family was invited, and you guys sometimes individually and sometimes as a family were participating right there with these people that we hold on this
they're
high level of, man, these people are great.
They're like, you sure you want us? Okay.
Isn't that cool?
No take backs.
We had a football player here. Speaking of that, I want to go there. Jim Herman was a defensive end during my era. He and Lee Johnson and Steve Young were inseparable.
Whoa.
Best friends.
Okay.
And
Lee Johnson, the kicker.
Well, Lee Johnson, the kicker. Jim Herman, the defensive end, and Steve Young, the quarterback. Who would have put those 3 together, But they were wonderful friends. And Jim told us about getting on the field and here are all these guys that are top of their field in all these different states. And he had something called imposter syndrome, which was interesting. Like, he felt like,
he didn't belong.
He
was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't belong there. And something you just said reminded me of, am I supposed to be here? You're here with all these highly talented folks, and yet you were supposed to be there.
Yeah.
He talked about the affirmations he got from some coaches. Oh, Jim, you're doing really well, And so you as a coach, how important is it to develop within your players, the mentality or even the confidence, is everybody different? You have to approach every single person in a different way?
Everybody is different. Everybody's very different. And I think as a coach, getting to know your players on an individual level is key. I used to go out to lunch with my coach like once every 2 months. He'd just take me to lunch.
When you were playing at Northern
Colorado?
Colorado?
Colorado. Yeah.
Wow.
And I know college sports, you're busy.
Yes.
But it was important to him to connect with his point guard.
Do you know that he
see
was
how I was
doing
doing
that
that.
with other players, or
I don't know.
You were the point guard.
I'll have to ask him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
And it meant a lot to me for him to ask, how are you doing? Like, not even basketball stuff. Just
Really?
about my family, about my girlfriend, and then once we got married, about my wife, and
She's a beautiful young lady.
She is. I'm blessed. I'm really blessed. But it meant a lot to me for him to know who I was beyond what we did on the court, because people that didn't know me and they watched me play, they would think I was one thing, but I'm so much more. Like I was pretty tenacious. I was pretty physical, but I love people. I'm a nice guy.
You are. We know that.
But the way that I played was different. I played hard and gave it everything I had, and but he cared not just what I could do for the team, but he was helping develop a man. And I think as coaches, I remember every coach that I've ever had. And I love my teachers, and they've been amazing. I'm not who I am without them, but I remember every coach that I've ever had.
I'm the same
I don't
way.
remember every teacher that I've ever had. I don't.
True.
And
I'm the same.
They make an impact. So I appreciate coaches taking the time to find out who their athletes are and what motivates them. I've had coaches that I was motivated because I was scared. Because I didn't want to get cussed out.
That's right.
Because in film, I knew they were going to say something, that was going to embarrass me.
How'd you dribble that off your toe?
So I really appreciated playing for a coach like Coach Boyle and like my high school coach, Coach Gary Ernst, because I loved them and I loved my teammates. And that was my motivation to give everything that I had, when I was playing.
Sweet. Well, do you miss that now? Because as athletic director, you're more involved in administration,
right?
And maybe helping your coaches gain those levels of confidence.
I do. I miss the because I have a relationship with these student athletes, but it's not as close as the coach. It's not the same. But I am able to connect with more of the youth, and that's awesome. And I'm also able to save my voice. I'm so vocal when I play. I'm so vocal when I coach, and that's a price they don't tell you about that you pay as a coach. If you're a good coach, say goodbye to your voice. You won't have it. You won't. It really it's tough to maintain your voice, and so it's been nice to step away, but then still be involved. And also, if someone wants me to sing the next day, I can do it.
You
and
can
not be
still
like,
do it.
no, I had a game last night.
Now there are times when I was coaching, and this was just youth sports, but I was always positive.
Yeah.
But I had a powerful voice.
Mhm.
I don't know why. You have a good, powerful voice.
Oh, I know
too.
you have a powerful. I remember I've been at the games. Yeah.
Fortunately, you never had to kick me out, right?
No, I couldn't. If I did, I'd have to get back up.
But seriously, I had a son who played soccer at BYU, and they were in a playoff, and so the stands were full. I forget if there were 3,000 or 4,000 people there, but everyone was loud. There was, just like soccer always ends up being, there were penalty kicks at the end. They had to decide the draw by who wins in these penalty kicks. And so I was yelling encouragement to my son, come on, Michael, blah, 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 and they can't hear you because there's 4,000 other people. He could.
Wow.
He said, Dad, I heard you.
Yep. Yep.
And that was cool as a dad or a coach to have that voice and be able to share encouragement is a joyful thing. And your voice is encouraging.
I love that you share. It makes me think of a time when I was coaching and we were playing in like the most important game of the season so far against our rivals. I loved my time coaching at American Leadership Academy. I loved it. We didn't have great height or great athleticism, but we had great students.
Good kids.
They were great kids.
Good kids.
And it was my 4th year. And I was like, oh, I had developed these kids since they were freshmen, like, and we should be killing it at this time because they're my program.
Totally invested.
So in the last few years, we'd won like just several games, and this year we were at like 4 wins. You know? And anyway, we're about to beat this team. I just felt it in my bones. But one of my premier players was turning the ball over, was getting blown by on defense. He usually dominated the boards, wasn't boxing out, and I was just like, Coach, get him out. He's killing us. Get him out of the game. So he's coming out of the game, and people are boo. It's you can't hear like anything. People are yelling. Anyway,
were they mad that you had pulled him out, or mad that he had been performing so poorly?
The visiting team,
Okay.
like, oh, you know how it gets, you know. And so people are just screaming, yelling, and then he's coming off the court, and I'm always like, sprint off the court, or you probably won't get back in very soon, you know. And so he sprinted off, and then he stops. And he looks up to the crowd, and he's like looking like this and nodding his head. I was like, what is wrong with this guy? And I look into the crowd, and there's his dad sitting, and he's saying, he's talking, and I'm like, I'm trying to like listen. I can't hear anything, but from what I could see, I was trying to read his lips, and it's like, you're okay, Daniel. You're all right. You'll get another chance. You're all right.
Good.
And his whole countenance changed, and he came off the floor. And in that moment, I was just like, you know, I was so emotional because I thought about my Father in heaven. I thought about how I'm in this game of life and I'm messing up sometimes, but he's always cheering me on. You're okay. You'll be all right, you know? And I just thought, man, like how his ear was attuned to his dad because he'd always listened to his dad his whole life, you know? And as we attune our ears to our Father in heaven and we can hear him, we got to block out all the noise. How key is that for us to be successful? How key is that for us to be able to really nurture a relationship with the Savior, you know, as being able to hear him? So I was like, when you said that, you were so surprised that he could hear your voice, but he's heard you his whole life, you know? And that's the same with my dad. My dad has this piercing voice that you could just hear, you know, and especially for me because I've always heard him my whole life.
Thank you. Wow. To liken that then, though, to our Father in heaven and hearing his voice. Love it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yahosh.
Yeah. I can't. Yeah.
That, you know, here's a man. Yesterday, in fact, there were 2 things that brings to mind. Kimby Clark was here a little earlier. Kimby Clark was dean of Harvard Business School. He was a general authority.
Whoa. Okay.
And has just written a book about leadership.
Yes, and he does the pathways.
Yes.
Oh, he's a legend.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. He was just here before you.
Oh my.
And
wow.
Kim, what a good gentleman.
Well, he spoke at our graduation just
Really?
last year. Yeah, because his nephew was graduating. No, his grandson. His grandson was graduating.
Yeah.
And so we got to hear his story and
But part of what you said reminded me of some that he taught us just a moment ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were talking about golf, and he's a good golfer.
Mm-hmm.
He's a really good guy, and I'm not. But he said something encouraging to me. And what was it? He says, Mike, one of the keys, and this applies to life. It applies to basketball. It applies to everything. He says, well, Mike, one of the things that helps me be a better golfer is there's always a next hole. And you just have to put that last... And he talked about it in kind of spiritual or life-like a setting. He said, you know, we make all these mistakes and we do all these wrong things, but somehow you have to leave that because now you're at the next hole.
wow.
And so something you just said reminded me of how Kim, and he called it repentance, you know, and being able to forget and put that behind you,
Move on.
and move on. And so your player, the kid that you were coaching, fortunately you brought him out because it enabled him to connect with his father.
Mm-hmm.
And his father said words of encouragement.
Yeah.
And you saw the young man's countenance change. And doesn't that apply to our lives?
Absolutely.
How does music hit us that way? Because there is certain music that just puts me in a different world.
Yeah.
Almost a different.
It's powerful.
It's why? Why is that?
Well, I think about, you know, David said, I'll praise him with a song and a dance. They've been doing it since the beginning.
It's true.
Praising God.
It's
through
true.
music, through performance, through dance. And really any gift that we have, we should use it and some way to glorify God, give him the glory. When we do that, he just makes it better, and it makes the experience better. I think with music, I learn. I remember hearing, because in our house, music was always playing, and on Sunday, it was no break for gospel music playing all the time. And I remember hearing these songs, and they would be in my head. They'd come in my head when I was a teenager, and when I was on a mission, they'd come in my head when I was, playing college ball. They would just come, and I would sing, and then all of a sudden, I would think of the words. Oh, whoa. And it would be a testimony right there for me, like, this is what I heard growing up. Like, so it helps bring the Spirit, helps bring things to your remembrance. You remember things better when it comes to music, for better, for worse, and so music is just a great amplifier, of the soul.
That. Yeah, it is. It brings things to our soul. I remember Diana, when our children were younger, she would, with other women that lived around, put them in what was called Joy School.
Mm-hmm.
And Joy School had a lot of music, but it was a cooperative where parents, if you had similarly aged kids, then, Diana takes all these 5 kids or 4 kids or whatever today, you're going to have them tomorrow. So it gave moms a break.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like a day school for the kids. Awesome. And she was so impressed as she realized that these children were learning songs. And I could sing them to you right now.
It stayed with you.
They've stayed with me too, because I heard my children singing these songs. And you realize you memorize. It's so much easier to memorize words. Like you asked me a Beatles talk, through their song. Yeah, I can quote it to you because that was my era.
Yeah,
I could quote it verbatim. Someone who gave a talk back then, I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
So what? It's interesting how our brain attaches those words with music, so that we can, and you remembered it on the court, thank you.
Well, and with my children, we use music all the time too. I'll lay down with them at night, we'll do a gospel song of praise, and so say, what do you want to sing tonight? Oh, I want to sing Jesus Take Me to the Light. Okay, what do you sing tonight? And this way I'm also able to teach them the songs of my ancestors,
cool.
Which are like the spiritual songs that my enslaved ancestors sang to strengthen them. There are a lot of different reasons that my ancestors sang and praised. One was, to praise and to talk with deity. Also, you couldn't talk about how hard your day is to anybody else out there. So you had to talk to God, or to talk to each other, or to tell about how to escape. And there's a spiritual called steal away. And to steal away meant to get away. To steal away to Jesus, another name for Jesus would be freedom. Steal away to Jesus. So you heard somebody singing steal away to Jesus, you knew that they were getting ready to break free that evening or the next day, steal away to Jesus. And so there are a lot of reasons for music from my ancestors. And one of the reasons that I really love the spirituals is because I don't think without their faith and knowing that there was a supreme creator that was aware of them and their hardships, that they would
could have endured.
They would, exactly. And they endured not because they knew that one day they would be free, but that could be a possibility, but they knew that I would be free and that their descendants would be free. And so there's so many things that we do in life that we're like, I'm doing this for my children. I'm doing this for those who came after me. I hear people saying, I want to buy my great grandkid a house, but for us, it's our faith. That's the most important thing we want to pass down because it's gotten us through so much. And that same strength that they drew upon is still here for us now, and so music is a great way to pass on those stories and those testimonies.
I just finished reading a book. It's called The Demon of Unrest by a gentleman named Eric Larson. And it's about the precursors to the Civil War. And the time when, right before Abraham Lincoln was put in as president, but the election was going. And it's fascinating when you consider how we in the world, but especially in the United States, were one of the later adopters of abolition or freedom. And when you read it, it's heartbreaking, how as one race of human beings can subrogate another equally children of God and claim that, you're my property. And it just breaks your heart reading about their histories, because this author went into the journals of all the different people. Yeah. And so you saw it from the visions and the sights of these people making their decisions, talking about how it was. And I just can't imagine, Yahosh, thinking about your ancestors and what they had to go through. And the strength that they not created, but even made more firm through their God, because nobody else was listening. Right? Yeah. And so thank you. We have a history that's replete with, I'm not fair to you, or maybe you're not fair to me. How do we get over that? Because, Yahosh, I love Danny Frazier. He was my roommate. He's a black, very successful athlete back then, and a very successful lawyer now, attorney. He has the best attitude. But he was a convert to the church, again, out of Arizona, when the priesthood was not yet restored as revealed. So his mom would make him get up in the morning on Sunday and go to priesthood meeting. And, I know how it is early in the morning. Mom, I don't want to go. Well, he had an extra rationale. Is, I don't have the priesthood. Why should I go? Yeah. How do you feel about that, Yahosh? I mean, because you'll feel it.
I'm sad. I'm sad about that. Okay. Because the priesthood has meant so much to my family in our lives. I can imagine not having the priesthood in our home. But then again, also, I'm also grateful that I have the priesthood, and people didn't have it, before me, people that look like me, and I think that it's so important for us to see, dang, that wasn't right, and say, right. Well, what do I know now? And how can I be better? And how can I teach my children better? So it's like, yeah, we're sad about that. And we're sad that those things happen. But what opportunity and responsibility do I have now? I think our ancestors look at us and I really love that quote. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams. They want us to be better. They want us to go further than they did. They want us to overcome a lot of the mistakes that they made. And so that's the responsibility that you have and that I have, and what a blessing that is. But we have to know the history. We can't just pretend like it didn't happen.
Don't sweep it under a rug.
It's easy to do that. It's so easy. Yeah, or want to. And so I think for us, it's a responsibility for us to know the history and to be better and to be grateful for what we have now.
That's what impresses me about you and Danny, my friend, and so many. I mean, look at the faithful members of the church. A lot of us might blame God. Like, you treated me bad. I'm leaving this church. And yet you're able to differentiate people and the way people treated, or
people.
Even the organization.
That's what they do. They be peopling. I mean, God has given us this agency, and what a great gift it is, but it can be very hurtful for each of us.
We can be hurtful to each other.
We absolutely can.
And that's, I don't know, that when I see that, I mean, I can always, there but for the grace of God go I. I don't know what my ancestors did, good or bad, but I can try to be better. Yeah. And that's the beauty. And I'm so grateful that we have so many people such as you and your family that are willing to keep going because their faith in God supersedes
all the gifts. Every blessing we have is because of our faith. In God and in his son, Jesus Christ. And I'm not walking away from those blessings. I'm not going to do that, and the world is so diverse, and it's amazing how much smaller the world has gotten with the internet and being able to have friends all across the world. A couple weeks ago, me and my family went to the Dominican Republic, and it was amazing. The people there are the kindest. They're amazing.
They're a party people. They're happy. They're happy.
And they're hardworking.
They are.
Hardworking. And it was great for my children to see that lifestyle and to also be here
and contrast it
and be like, man, we're blessed, because there's a lot of different classes, in the Dominican Republic, and we saw several of them, and for us to see, man, this is really great about the Dominican Republic. This is really great about the United States. This is really hard about the Dominican Republic. This is really hard about the United States. But we definitely felt an increased level of appreciativeness for our country, and with as many hard things and horrible things that happen in our country's history, I'm not gonna just get up and leave, because I love the life that I live now, and I'll go visit and go other places and maybe live there for a little bit, but my ancestors helped build this country, and it's only going to get better as we keep striving to work together to make that happen. But again, we have to, I don't know, not knowing what your ancestors did, we'll find out. So, and that's the neat thing too. I mean, with the pioneers, man, what they went through. And what did they do? Traveling, singing, come ye saints, singing praises to God through their hardship. Just lost my brother yesterday. All is well. I'm going to see him again. It's the faith that strengthened them, that allowed them to keep on that trek and that journey. That same strength that we still have today. It's here for us. We just got to go get it. We got to nurture that relationship with our Father and the Savior. But I mean, come ye saints, I feel like that's the spiritual for the saints. It's so powerful.
And it has that rhythm. Let me share something with you, because what you said brought me back to my mission. I served a mission in Central America, and my first location was a little town on the Pacific coast of Nicaragua called León, Nicaragua. Sí, me gustó mucho.
Hey.
Los nicaragüenses son muy buenos.
Whoa, you still got it.
Well, my wife and I were just in Mexico a year ago, so we were serving. But it was fascinating to me, Yahosh, because what you said about the Dominican Republic applied totally to me. Here I leave California, convert to the church, but now I'm a missionary. And I'm there in the streets of León, Nicaragua. And it was third world. Trust me, it was way third world. So we would go into the houses of people, and they would have dirt floors, and they would sweep their dirt floor. They'd put water on it and then sweep out whatever, had gathered on the floor. Their bathroom facilities weren't what we were familiar with. It was third world. And I, as a young man reaching that country, I thought, wow, they don't know what it's like and how much we have in the United States. I was so proud of what we have in the United States, or what we had back then in California. And it was interesting that 2 weeks later, I don't know if it was 2 weeks, but it took me just a little bit of time to realize that despite the fact that they were living in essentially the deepest poverty you could consider, that these people were happy.
Wow.
That the children would run around with the rims of bicycles, no tires, just rims, and they would push the rims with sticks. And that was the fun that they had, is pushing these things up and down hills. The mothers and fathers would sit on rocking chairs on their porches. And despite the fact that it was just thatched roofs, they had palm trees, and the sun was setting over the Pacific, and it was beautiful. And you could feel these people, despite the poverty that they live in, have joy that maybe we didn't have as much of in California. And so, like you saw good, the contrasting things that we have in the United States versus the Dominican Republic or Nicaragua. It's fun to see that we all have a little bit of that light from God, no matter where we live or how we live.
Yes.
And to respect that. Too many times we go with our pride of, man, what I have is better than yours. And it was fun to see that, no, these people have some real joy, even if they only have a few tortillas and some beans every day.
That sounds a lot like my wife's experience growing up, because she's from Haiti. I don't know if you knew of it.
That's right. I read that. Yes.
And so, it shares the island with the Dominican Republic. And so to be on that same island that she was from, and she always talked about the mangoes, and you could just walk down the street and pick fruit, and how much bigger the avocados were. And
my heavens. The fruit is unbelievable.
Yeah. So it was really neat to hear about, those things from Vanessa, and then for us all to go and experience that. It was hard because we weren't able to go to Haiti and being so close, and her not being able to go home because
Haiti's
of the
a tough
unrest.
spot.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But she still is able to keep, contact with her family and to give support when they need it.
All right, so tell us, we've been on a little bit in the racial things in the United States and within the church. You played a part that we really loved in the movie Green Flake.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that a little bit?
I was amazing. So the director and screenwriter for that film was my brother.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's
Well,
who this industry,
there's some nepotism.
A little bit, no. Well, yes. But
I'm kidding. You did a great job.
I thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was amazing being able to be a part of this project because I had a lot of siblings and my parents who were involved also in this movie, and for us to know about Green Flake and then learn about other Black saints that we just didn't know. Like, Black saints were here, and so that's important for us to know and to hear about their enslavement, and to hear about their experiences and how they still kept their faith.
That was a question we had, is we assumed, wrongly, that the Blacks that came here had already been freed, that they weren't enslaved. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so Green Flake helped trailblaze the way. He was part of the Vanguard group that Brigham Young put together, and him and Brigham Young, I believe, had a pretty good relationship, but he was part of that Vanguard group so he trusted him enough to trailblaze the way for the saints to come west, and he didn't get his freedom for several years after the saints had been in Utah, but
it was Brigham Young. Who was his?
It was Brigham Young that eventually gave him his freedom.
Okay.
He belonged to the Flake family, and I believe,
okay. That's
there are different accounts. Some say that he was given his work as for tithing, and there are a lot of different accounts. I'm not exactly sure what it was.
Interesting.
But just learned so much about the Black saints. Jane Manning James, learned about her, Hark and Oscar, who were brothers who also were enslaved. Learned about them, and they also were part of that Vanguard group. And so just recently, I think, how long has it been? A year and a half, maybe? My brother was able to lead the way for there to be a monument made. This is the place, Heritage Park. There's a monument, and it shows Black saints. It has Jane Manning James, has Hark and Oscar, has Green Flake, and it tells about who they are.
I'm going to be disappointed if you're not the picture for Green Flake. I'm kidding.
But it was an amazing movie, and it strengthened us. And you think about, man, this is a hard history, but without knowing that history, we miss out on those testimonies. We miss out on the opportunity to be strengthened. You wouldn't talk about Joseph of Egypt and not mention that he was sold into slavery and was enslaved. You would mention that's a part of the story.
Now that's a really good
point. Or the
point.
children of Israel.
Yeah, for how many years?
Yeah.
Was it 250 or 400 years? Mm-hmm. So in slavery is an evil that's gone on a long.
Yeah, and obviously it looked different than it did 150 years ago when my ancestors. It looked different, but it's not having that freedom. And working for
to choose
other people. Yeah. So it's amazing to hear these stories.
When you heard, learned, and even acted out those stories, because when you're an actor, you have to be that person.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So tell me, was there anything that was super depressing, or was there anything uplifting, or both that you learned?
It was so uplifting that these stories are being told and that people want to hear these stories rather than they didn't exist. They did exist. They were here.
Right.
They helped.
We don't want to sweep them under the rug.
No. And so it was very special for us, especially being siblings. We'd pray before, like together, me and my brothers and whoever else was on set at that time. We'd pray together before we shot. And it was just special to be together because Green Flake was sold away from his family at a young age, like 11 years old or something like that.
Imagine.
Yeah. Imagine going out for the day and coming back and where's mom? Where's my son?
Yeah.
Where's my daughter? Like that wasn't guaranteed. And so
that's where that book took me. Demon of Unrest. It just, those, because putting yourself in that position.
Well, and knowing these stories makes you appreciate what you have Now I'm going to be a better father because I know of what happened with my ancestors. I'm going to appreciate my wife more, my children more. I'm going to invest in them because that's where my greatest joys have been, is been with family. When I think about my life, it's not my accolades in athletics. It's not my accolades as a singer, but it's the time that I spent with my children and with my wife and with my brothers and my sisters. Those relationships have brought me the most joy, and so hearing that that's something that everybody should be entitled to, that there were people that weren't entitled to that didn't have that.
Let's go back to that young man who you pulled from the game. He was struggling. He was just blowing it.
Mm-hmm.
And his father was able to mouth the words that he heard.
Yeah.
And lift him back up. Those young people, didn't have that opportunity because their Father in heaven, they had to be linked to a Father in heaven. The Father, the earthly Father was pulled away, ripped away.
Yeah,
from them.
Absolutely. Or they didn't know who they were because of, the way they did it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yahosh, this is uplifting. We're going to have to tell us, you told me a little bit about something that's played on BYU TV.
Yes.
So we got to formalize this so I can turn it on. Tell me about it.
So I had the opportunity to co-host a show called Family Rules. And we had several seasons, and it was such an amazing opportunity for me because I'm growing my family now, and I'm learning things from other families, what they do to help them nurture those relationships and to put family first. So, how I said I have a gospel song of praise at night and pray with my children. Well, I learned this from this family in Arizona. The father gets home, and, he doesn't even sit down. He just plays with his kids first, and then they have dinner.
Wow.
And then he does the bedtime routine where he climbs in bed with each of his children, asks them about their day, and then they say prayer, and that's it. But for me, I was like, oh, that's great. That's the perfect time for me to connect with my children. So I lay in bed with my children. I try to do this. I haven't done it as much as recently, but my 13-year-old doesn't like to be snuggled by me as much.
No doubt.
But I'll climb in bed. And I say, what was the best part of your day? What was your high? What was your low? And then what song of praise do you want to sing? And they look forward to that, and they love it. So I'm able to really connect with my children on an individual level, and that's just one of the tools that family used. Or another family talked about how they had a lot of siblings, but there's like a 2-year-old and there's like a 16-year-old, and how do you nurture that relationship?
That's right.
Again,
they're different, so you have to attend to each in their own way.
Yeah, so what that family did, I believe it was the Andersons, what they did is they did these things called sibling dates. And so they spend a half an hour on one day a week with the different siblings. They match them up. Okay, you're with the 2-year-old for a half hour. You guys do an activity. You're with the 15 and the 12-year-old are hanging out. So, and they mix it up so that you have those special times with the siblings. And again, it's about family, because family is so important,
We're going to go and we're going to watch Family Rules on BYU TV. I'm going to connect with more of your music because last night when I watched that song on Oceans, I just, it felt good here.
I love my solo music. The best music is the Bonner family. You guys got to check out the Bonner family.
It is.
That's my crew right there.
You guys are going to replace my Beatles songs.
Just make a little space for us. Just make a little space.
It's like the almond farmers in California. Just one a day. That's all we ask. But Yahosh, you are an inspirational man. You're a father. You're a husband. You are a trailblazer in many ways.
Wow.
Our audience is kind of all over, but it's probably mostly BYU and members of the church. So what are your final thoughts that you'd like to share with us? Because you've been so inspirational and uplifting here. Maybe you need to give us some hard truths. But how would you? What feelings do you have?
Gosh, because it's a variety of ages too, right?
It is.
I mean, life is a journey. I thought athletics was it, but I also nurtured other things that I loved and that the Lord put on my heart. If the Lord puts a talent or something on your heart to do, or you do it.
You need to do it.
You pour yourself into it, because you never know when He's going to need that talent to build His kingdom, when He's going to need that talent for you to reach out to and help somebody else. And a lot of times our hardships, which are going to happen, the testimony that you receive is not always just for you, but it's for those that you come in contact with. what are you doing with that testimony of that hardship? You got to talk about how God has been good to you. You have to talk about it, because if you don't, people, they won't know. And then they can look at their own lives.
Shine,
you
right?
let it shine.
Let it shine.
Amen. So I guess just, share your testimonies of your hardship. Learn about your ancestry. Know that your life it's really not just yours. President Holland talked about how heaven is on our side. They're rooting for us, and so just think about all the goodness that your ancestors had, and they've poured it out into you. We are the remnants, and we are the survivors of these amazing people who weren't perfect. Let's carry it on.
I love it. Yahosh Bonner, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Beautiful
Love you,
day. Love you too, man. Thank you.